Hey everyone, welcome to another session of A Day in the Life of a BA. I'm James, the president of IABA Ireland, and I'll be your host today. At IABA Ireland, our mission is to support professionals by sharing knowledge, common terminology, and practical insights into the work of business analysts across different industries. And that's the whole point of this series, to give you the chance to hear directly from BA professionals about their typical day, their processes, the tools and techniques they use, and the challenges and successes they encounter in their industry. So each month, we're inviting a BA professional to share their personal journey, highlighting the approaches they take, the technologies they rely on, and real world examples from their work. So whether you're considering a career in business analysis, already working alongside BAs, or simply looking to deepen your understanding of the role, today's session is designed to give you that clarity, confidence, and a shared language for working effectively with BAs. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by Gustavo, a business analyst in the fintech sector. Gustavo will be walking us through his own day in the life and sharing practical insights from his experience. If you'd like to turn on your cameras, please feel free to do so. And throughout the session, don't hesitate to drop any questions into the Q&A tab or the chat, and we'll address them at the end of Gustavo's presentation. So without further ado, Gustavo, it's over to you.
Hi, James. Thank you very much for the introduction, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your time with us. First of all, I would like to express all my gratitude to the IABA Ireland chapter for giving me the opportunity to share my experience and my knowledge and how is a day in the life of a business analyst in fintech here at Italy in Milano. Of course, a special thank you to you, James, who has been incredibly supportive organizing these sessions. I saw some of the other sessions, they were incredible, so you're doing a fantastic job. And of course, thank you everyone that's joining us today, who registered and connected virtually today, and everybody else that could be joining later for the recording session. So thank you very much. I will try to keep it concise and really fluid, so I don't lose you in the way. A little bit about myself. I'm a senior business analyst with 10 years of experience in banking and fintech and leasing. In my academic path, I'm a business analyst with experience in business and economics, with a doctorate in course in Spain, and I did here in Italy a master in data analytics. That gave me international experience in Argentina, in Spain, and in Italy. And I believe it gives me a multicultural perspective. I'm a Spanish speaker, but I think I can speak also in English, I think, and in Italian. My expertise is in digital transformation, legacy systems, process optimization, and compliance. About certifications, I'm a normal VA, so I'm just building my way through. I have some certifications in data analytics, and I want to have my ACAB certificates with the IIBA. About the tools that I usually use, we're gonna see it through the course, and that's about me. How I got from Argentina to Italy. That's the story I want to start talking about. I used to, when I finished university, I started working immediately in banks. That was my choice. I love dressing like a banker and doing all the bank jobs and being in the center of the city. So that gave me a solid experience in operations, how a bank works from the beginning of my career. I feel really confident when I have to be talking about the functioning of a bank or a sector in the banking industry. But as my expertise grow, I thought and I believe that I have to keep learning and expanding my knowledge and my professional knowledge. So I came with the business analysis profession, and I started learning about it, and I was more confident and more happy the way I work when I start to build and grow with all these tools from the business analysis world, with the business analysis um, um, way of talking and way of working, not only with the tools from the university. So that's when something happened inside me, and I believe that I had to plan my growth, and I start to plan how can I grow faster and where everything can happen. That's when I decided to move to Europe, and specifically to Milan. Uh, so I start to search everything here in Italy and plan all my trip and plan and organize everything so I could fit into the um, competitive world of job search. So um, as the time goes by, I start building my expertise toolbox and everything. And in 2023, I moved with my wife from Argentina to Milan to to grow my professional career and pursue my future here. And and I start doing a master degree in data analysis. I know many of those tools that I saw in this course, they are not directly in business analysis. Many of those are from the data analysis world. But I wanted to learn how Italian use different terminology because the course was in Italian, and how the analysts think, because many of those people were analysts. So I didn't want to just to know everything about banking. I wanted to know everything about the developers also. So that mix of information and trying to assimilate the culture and the ways of the people speaks here, I think that gave me an advantage at the moment of searching for a job, and that's how I got inside the fintech sector in Milan. About how we're gonna talk about this session, I'm gonna try to show you how a company works here in Italy, how is the professional context, and the specific points of day-to-day as a BA in Italy. All the techniques and tools that I use here, all the challenges that I have, the obstacles that I face in the fintech sector, the regulatory pressure, and the lesson learned, and the insights that I may have. Okay, here at Milan, I work for Agapdue. Agapdue is my main contractor, let's say the the company where I work, where I have the contract with. But they contract me to work for a project, and this project was in Multiply Tech. In Multiply Tech is at the company that I actually fulfill the job day to day on a day-to-day basis. And over there, they do have their own rules, their own way to work. I was contract for a business analyst position, and at Multiply Tech, I work as a business analyst, I do some work as a project manager, as a tester, as a quality assurance, because this happens, I believe this happens everywhere, because the business analysis job and the business analysis definition, it's getting into the shape. And in every country and also in every company, they have different definitions from the job. So I think it depends, and also depends where do you put the limits and where you can put the limits. I'm really comfortable with the tasks that I have to do. So I think the limits are all right for me. At the moment, at Multiply Tech, I work with two major bank companies. We support two major bank companies. Let's call it Project A and Project B. In one of the projects, the Project A, it's a migration from a legacy system to a new cloud system. So the work is more strategic. It's more of a redesign of the project, having in consideration all the compliance. I have to work all the different workflows to see how it works, because sometimes you don't have all the information. The legacy system is so old that there is no information. So you have to start digging and working your way around to get the information, how to draw the flow and transport this to the new system. It's also a little bit more political, so everything has to fit in place. In the Project B, is more regulatory, is more fast-paced. It has to be more with the day-to-day work, more operational, like product updates, with the changes of legal requirements, product requirements, some small process changes, new products that you have to develop, and so on. So my day-to-day can move between strategic and big picture redesign, and also tactical operational adjustment. And that duality, let's say, it's challenging, and I think it's fun. Okay, in the fintech sector, in these banks, we work with the product of leasing. The company that I work for is the biggest provider in Italy of systems for leasing in all Italy. Also, we incorporate renting in the last 2 years at some as a product, as a service for other companies. But the big knowledge and advantage of the company is leasing. So we provide the system for the banks. So we can say that the main stakeholders for which I talk every day in this ecosystem are, for one side, the banks, that the banks are the companies that provide financing and the contract management. The clients, that could be business, small companies, or even individuals, is the end user. The dealer, that it supplies the product or the assets, for example, car dealerships, equipment suppliers. You can have a leasing on even in buildings or ships or technology or machines that are needed in production. Insurance companies, that provides the mandatory coverage for the contracts. And regulators, that all the ensure compliance with legal and financial standards like GDPR, AML, and consumer protections. So as a business analyst, I need to capture and connect with all these different dimensions, making sure the system and the process reflects the reality of this ecosystem. So for those that don't know actually what leasing is, and you can sometimes confuse it with a loan, a leasing is a financial agreement in which a company pays to use an asset owned by a financial institution or leasing company for a fixed period of time. Okay, let's make it simpler. In a loan, you have the client and the bank gives you a loan. In a leasing, you have the client, the bank, and the company that gives you the assets. So you have three major actors, and in a loan, you have only two. And in a leasing, you don't possess the asset. It belongs to the bank. So what you can do in a leasing, at the end of the contract, you can return the goods, you can renew the contract for a new one, or you can purchase the asset and for the agreed value, the residual value. So why, if a leasing is more complicated, it has so many actors, somebody or a company will choose a leasing instead of a loan? That's the question that I asked myself at the beginning working in the company. Why don't you just get a loan? It's because of many different points. And many of those has to be with the financial and operational part. So one of them is ownership, the difference. In leasing, you don't own the property. The property, it belongs to the bank. In a loan, you own the property and you borrow the money to buy it. The payments in the leasing, the payments are for the use of the assets, like the rent. In a loan, the payments are for repaying the borrow of the money. Here it said principal plus interest. In both of them, they have interest, so that part is not a difference. The flexibility in a leasing, you have at the end of the contract the option, like we said before, the option to return it, to renew it, or to purchase the asset at the end. In a loan, instead, you don't have the chance to do it. Once you buy the item, at the end of it, you have to keep it. You have to keep it until the end of the life cycle of the asset. No, because in a company, you have the life cycle of a product. For a car, for example, is 5 years. At the end of these 5 years, accountability of the company, that assets, it doesn't have any value at the end. So a leasing could be also in a 5 years lifetime. I will explain you this later. And another difference, it's accounting taxes. A leasing can be treated as an operating expense in the accountability books, and this is more tax efficient. So this is really important for the companies. Instead, in loans appears as a debt. So in the company balance sheets. So what this means that the company it has, if a company takes a leasing and not a normal loan, in the accountability sheet, it seems like it's a lighter company because this company it has better good financial ratios and it can attract better investments because it doesn't have a passive. And also, leasing in Italy, it has tax benefits. So in many jurisdictions, this is deductible of expenses. So many companies take advantage of this. Also, in an operating point of view, if you, for example, let's say if you buy a tractor, when you finish in leasing, when you finish the contract at the 5 years time, let's say, you can change that tractor for a new one with a new contract with no further questions. You don't have to take care of the unit or anything. You just change it for a new one with a new leasing contract. And the company will do that. But if you take a loan, you have to sell the tractor and then buy a new one. So for a company, sometimes it's more practical also to take an asset in a leasing structure. So how do we help the banks to manage the product, the leasing product in the life cycle? At the moment, we are focused our scope from the offer until the first payment. So our part of the system, the ones that we work in every day at the office. So the leasing product life cycle, it start with the offer, with the quotation. Here in Italy, it's called it's called preventivo. So when the client arrives to the bank, the system generates an initial quotation, calculates the terms, calculates the type of contract because the contract changes if it changes the assets, and calculates the interest rates and the repayment schedules and the initial payment and the last payment, and gives the client an offer. When the client returns with the preventivo and accepted, the system start creating the contract. So it started to build the draft of the contract to evaluate the client's financial health. So the third step is to evaluate the client financial health. So here is we have a step where all the data is calculated from the client. It could be an existing client from the bank database or a new client. So the system has to communicate with all the different databases, financial databases, to see if this client has a good history of payment or not, or has a lot of debt, and if he could assume this new loan, this new leasing. When we say client, it's a company or a person. Once the credit is assessed, then it starts the assess of the valuation of the product. So we have to evaluate the supplier, we have to evaluate the assets, we have to evaluate the amount of money that the client says it's worth it, the car or the machinery or the tractor or the furniture or the building. Then the system, what it does, it has to approve the credit. This could be automatic or through a credit committee. Here I have to talk about that I follow two different banks. So the leasing product life cycle of the entire system is the same, but when you see the two different systems, even that if we are in the same company, the products, they are not similar. They have similarities, but they are different, and they work different because we create the product as the customers need it. So all the products, they are similar but not the same. So we have teams that work similar but works in different products, works in different workflows. It's interesting. So at this point, we can have an automatic approval, and for the system to have an automatic approval, it has to make so many calls to so many different areas. So it's really, really tricky. I'm gonna show you later the workflow, and then you're gonna understand what I'm talking about. Or could be approved by a committee manually with all the information provided by the system. Once the credit is approved, the system generates the documentation. This could be physically, like a PDF, or could be digitally. If the document is created digitally, it has to have an entire follow-up track where you have all the metadata of the document. You have to save that information. You have to get all the compliance of the document. And if you have a digital document, you have a digital signature. So it starts to get tricky and to get more interesting. And even if you have it physically, then the document returns signed, and you have to have that document download and then upload into the system. And it has to be validated by the system, so you don't upload a picture of your dog. You upload the actual document signed by the person that it's needed to sign. So everything has to be according to the requirements of the product and to the rules of the system. Once the system have the contract signed and all the steps are approved, then we have the activation of the contract, and the client can have the goods or the assets, or the car, the tractor, the product that he bought. And then and that's the moment when the payments life cycle starts. And that's the big picture of how a leasing product life cycle works. To make you understand in the day-to-day basis how it works, this is the high-level workflow of the system, of one of the systems, where you can see that this is the high-level workflow. So this is the more highest picture that you can give to a CEO in the company. And you can see it that it's really tricky and complicated. And in red, it's shown at what stage of the system you are sitting on. No, and this is not only the happy path. You have like different paths marked here, like exceptions, all the approvals, all the validations, and parallel flows. This complexity in this system comes because we have to get inside here so many different actors: client, bank, and dealer, the three main actors that we talked before, and so many different systems: the customer relationship management, the core banking, document management, all the outside systems that we have to communicate with to validate the information, to validate the risk, to validate the value of the asset. to to validate all the compliance, all the regulations and the laws that we have to fulfill. So while the life cycle product looks really simple, as I show you before, in practice, the system workflow are highly detailed, and this is the high-level workflow. And that's where our role becomes interesting and essential, because we have to translate all the business needs into a structured workflow that can really be interpreted. So if you ask me this workflow, I believe that at the company, nobody understands it because it's really complicated. So we have to start working on it. And to show you how to work on how to really do it, we're gonna take one of the steps of the life cycle. We're gonna take the quotation and offer, and we're gonna work on that to see how we can go from the highest level to the small parts of it to work on that. Once a colleague told me, how do you eat an elephant? No, and how do you eat it? By little pieces. You cannot eat one elephant in once. You have to cut it in small pieces, and that's how you eat it. It's not that we eat elephants here, but okay. We're gonna focus on the preventivo, on the quotation, from the highest picture to the detailed analysis in every steps possible that the time will give us to do it. So you can get the idea of how is the work. So the main objective of a preventivo is to give the customer an offer that it's reliable and it's the best offer in the market. So to give the best offer in the market, we cannot just look at the competition and say, oh, if the other competition gives 5%, we can give you 4%. Because we have to evaluate so many different things. To start, we have to evaluate the client. It's already a client of the bank or not. It's a company, it's a big company, it's a small company, and how much debt this company or person has. It has debt with us or with other companies. And perhaps if it's already a client with us, it already has credit. And if it has credit, the system gets more fast and it goes through a happy path. So all this, it has to be calculated and generated. And this step involves multiple systems, as I said, multiple data flows and stakeholders. So in the system, we have the front and the back, the front end and the back end in the system. So when the client gets into the systems take the information and analyze if we have this client in the database, if it already exists or if it doesn't. So if the client already exists, we have it in the database and we have all the information already with the client. If we don't have it, we have to communicate with an external database and bring that person to us or that company to us. Sometimes some of these calls that we make to external companies, they cost money to the company. It's a call that costs money. So it could cost 30 cents, 20 cents, €1. I don't know. I don't actually really know, but it costs money. So if we don't design good in a good way the flow, and if we make a curve and a return on this call, and the system makes a loop, it could be really expensive for the company. And it could be a really problem for us later. So what other things that we have to have in mind? We have to have in mind the data anonymization to get the GDPR compliance. This is actually really, really important, because if we have data filtration, it could be drastic, chaotic for us. So hopefully the filtration will never happen, but if it happens, if we have our data anonymized, that's like a barrier, and that's a prevention for us. So this is really sensitive information, and we have to analyze it and work with that with all the senses, the sense, and the prevention that we have to have with it. As we called before, the digital and printed preventivo generation, the interest rate component, the base rate, the spread, the wings, sometimes in the structure of the bank, they are not similar. So a bank could have outside sellers. So if a bank has an outside seller that sells the leasing for them, they have a commission. And this commission has to be calculated in the field of the cost for the client. So it has so many variables, and it depends not only in the core components of the process, it also has to be related to the structure of the bank, or in the structure of the commercial structure of the bank, and so on. There are so many variables. Let's see. For example, if we are gonna decompose a quotation or a preventivo, let's say as a for an epic story, like in general, like we can say, as a customer, I want to receive a preventivo so I can evaluate the leasing offer easily and secure. We cannot work with that because it's too general. So we have to digest this in smaller pieces so we can eat the elephant. So we need to write user stories more smaller, that we can work with them in a smaller time manner. So at the company, we work in sprints, and these sprints had to be finished in 2 weeks. So the work that we have to do and the deliver that we have to do, we deliver a part of the software. We have to deliver every 2 weeks. So we need to make a story that can be measured and that can be finished in 2 weeks. So we have to capture the essence of every little part of the story that we have to work with it in and finish in 2 weeks. This epic is too big, so we have to decompose it in smaller stories so we can work on them and finish them in time. For example, if we have to generate a document, that's too general. Okay, we can generate the introduction of the document at first, but because if we have to generate a document, we need to import all the information inside that document. So if you know what requires to generate one document, you're gonna know the complexity of the work that it has to be done, and you're gonna say, no, we cannot generate the entire contract in 1 week. We can generate, for example, the first page, because in the first page you have the name, you have the number, you have to calculate the import, you have to calculate all the information. It seems small, but actually in the back, it's a big work that you are doing it. And of course, you have all the factors of complexity. So the regulatory requirements that you should already knew, know, because when you start working in a bank, you are not starting the bank. The bank already existed before you, so you have to learn how it began and how it was working, and what all the requirements and the regulatory law and artifacts that you need to accomplish to have everything according to the compliance. You have all the stakeholders, customer, risk management. You have to integrate so many systems to have that outcome, and you have to work with all the sensitivity of the data and personal and financial information. So we can, to go a little bit deeper, we can, let's say that we insert the information in the database, we validate the anonymous data, we calculate the leasing terms, rate, spread, etc. We generate the preventivo, just let's say digital or in print, and we have to store and archive it. There are no anything that happens in the system that could be deleted. For law, you have to achieve all the information. So everything has to be traceable from the end to the beginning of the system. You have to be able to trace everything, who did what, when, and how. So how do we manage to do all this as ABAs? We have so many different tools that we can use. I like to use the process models of BPMN to draw how is the workflow, just in the bigger or smaller workflows, deeper, slow workflows as well. We can produce a requirement catalog with functional requirements and non-functional needs. We have the user stories with acceptance criteria. I have to write the test book for the users and sometimes guide also the user to how to use the test book and how to do the test. Even though they ask for the work, they sometimes don't know how to make the test. And I like to draw a stakeholder map just to see the pictures, and I'm not losing any stakeholder, and I'm speaking with all the different parts that are involved. So to say in how it's a normal day, in a regular day at the office in the fintech world in Italy, I can say that there is no regular and normal day in the fintech sector in the company that I work. I can say that we have regularly, and in those times that I sign here, the coffee breaks. The coffee breaks, they are like heavenly. You cannot touch them. And at the beginning, it was like funny for me, and I didn't understand why at 11, then at 15, and then at 17, everybody stand up and did the coffee break. And here in Italy, they drink espresso. The coffees are really, really, really small, like this size. And in this cup, they don't actually fill it up. They drink only 1/3 of a coffee. So it's like a shot of caffeine that they drink in 5 minutes. And by law, in Italy, every 2 hours, you have a 5 minutes break. So that's why they have the break at 11, then at 13, and then at 15, and then at 17. And when I find that at the beginning, for me, it was funny. And then I realized it was something that was written by law. And then at the practice, it was carried on and so on. But the funny thing is that everybody goes to that coffee break at that time, and it gets an atmosphere of chatting, and it's an unstructured place where you can work with colleagues and speak with colleagues. And we try not to talk about work at that time. As a matter of fact, I didn't mention it, but my working model is hybrid. So I work and almost most of the jobs in Italy, I realized that at hybrid at the beginning. So you have 3 or 4 days at the office and 1 or 2 days remote. What do we have every week? Every week are the stand-ups. And we have in one team 2 stand-ups weekly, and in another team we have 3 stand-ups weekly. In these stand-ups, there are about 40 minutes or 1 hour, and happens everything. In my company, everything happens on the stand-ups. So what do we do in a stand-up as a VA? So in a stand-up, what happens? You have the backlog, and they start working on the backlog really, really fast. So you review all the user stories. They add details to the user stories. They add details to the descriptions of the every task in the backlog. Change the priority of the items. They also estimate the effort. Sometimes I'm not saying that everything happens, but it could happen on the stand-up. But if it doesn't happen there, it's the trigger that makes it happen in the rest of the day or in the rest of the days before the next stand-up. They sometimes identify the dependencies of every task that they have to work on and split or merge stories. Also, there is the task prioritization. What are you going to work first and what you going to work later, and what brings more value to the customer. Sometimes the value of the customer change. They get an email and the prioritizations change. Are these aligned with strategic goals or not? Sometimes we get the chance and the opportunity to talk, and sometimes we don't get the opportunity. But at this point, I'm trying to be more like a listener and see people's faces, not only hear them, but also see the faces. Even if you are remote, you can see all the faces, all the moods, and see if it's a good opportunity to say something or not. Talking about strategic goals, because perhaps you don't know what the client said or what was the conversation with the client, and you're going to say, wait, but the client said that the opportunity, perhaps it's the moment, perhaps not. You have to be really, really, really sensitive with that, when to speak and when to say what. Also, remove blockers. With blocks, in my opinion, it's not that sensitive. You see a block, you have to remove it. If the blocks are personal, that's more complicated. But if the blocks are because of dependencies, of process migration, or classified blocks that are operationals, if you identify one, you can talk to it and talk to the team and say, hey, look, I can see that this is blocking that. We can work like this, or what do you believe is better for the work of this of these days? So to resume, in a stand-up, you just talk about what you did the day before and how you did it and how did it work. What are you gonna do today and in the day before and the next day, and what is blocking you and what's blocking the team. So while the team is focused on alignment and blocks, business analysis is more flexible here. We have to see the opportunity, how we can support the team and where the team needs to clarify something, if they need help on the structure or stakeholder communication. Sometimes it's a good opportunity to say, hey, Max, let's talk later about this point, because there are not personal conversation. It's a team conversation. So what tools do I usually work with? There are so many tools that you can use in your day by day. And here I just try to make a screenshot of the most not important, but the tools that I use mostly day to day. So I don't know if someone recognize any of these screenshots or any of these tools. There are two slides of tools. Just I try to summarize it with the two slides. If you can write in the comments if you recognize any of these. Okay. Okay, yes. Teams, Jira, SQL, calendar from Teams, yes. Okay. I didn't see all the other comments. I'm sorry. I see some of them there really funny. Thanks. Yes, the first in the corner, up in the corner, it's Teams. We use it to communicate, and I think it's a really good tool for remote working and also to get your calendar. The other tool is Notes, that I use it to in every meeting to organize my notes, because I have two teams, and I used to have three teams. So it helps me organize all the information. And you can also link the information from the notes to calendars and to calendar to notes. So it links really, really, really good. I also use SQL, but mostly for finding information in the database. If I have to work in the back end of the system, but I don't use it that much. Some other BAs, they are more in the like product owners. They have to um, to upload new information sometimes to the system. So they do work more with the rewriting of the information in different levels. I only use the levels of practice, let's say, to take the information off. The tool in the corner is Jira, that we use it to do the follow-up of the work of all the developers. I use it to see what's the stage of everything and to take off the information, if they link any new documents that it may serve, because one of the first sources of information are documentation. And if you have the last document, it's important, because if not, you're going to be reading 10 pages of all documents, and that's not good for anyone. Let me see. In my company, we also use SharePoint to share all the documents and to work collaboratively. Of course, you have to know all the tools of Office. That's basic right now. If you don't use them, it's complicated. And any system or tool that helps you draw a workflow could be good, like Visio. In this case, I make a screenshot of Camunda that I like because it's really easy to work with. Also, I use Adonis. And in the left corner, in the bottom, it's tool that I didn't know. It's not a tool, it's a task that I didn't have to do before I got into this job, that we have to uh, fill every day all the hours that we work and in what project do we actually working. So in the company they have really measure everything that we work in. So this is, at the beginning I didn't like it. For me it sounded like micromanagement, and many of my teammates believe that. So, but when I start to see why they do this is because the hours of our work, they have to be charged in to a client. So if I have 8 hours of work and I have two clients, how many hours do I work for one client? How many hours do I work for the other? And so on with the developers. This is a technique that is more used to developers, but because I work in a high-tech technology firm with so many developers, they use it for everyone. So I have to say every day in what task did I work in how many hours. So at the end of the month, the product owner with the project manager, they go and say, hey, remember that you asked us for this document? Okay, that document took us X amount of hours. So this is negotiated at the beginning. So you cannot put anything. You have to be really concise with the information. Yes. So, oh yes, James, do we have the opportunity or time to make a quick poll? Or I don't know how we are going with time.
Yeah, we've 3 minutes. I can see that we've only one question in the chat, so I think we would have time to do
Oh,
the poll if you do want to launch that.
okay, okay. I'm almost finished with the presentation, so we can move to the tools. I in this slide, I just wanted to say that it doesn't matter the tool that much, but what helps you to accomplish. And there are some fundamental techniques that we use that they are all in the IIBA book, in the Babok book. We have 50 of them, but the the techniques that I use the most: elicitation, user story, prioritization, requirement life cycles, process modeling, of course, and acceptance criteria. The challenges that I face every day, I think they are similar to every business analysis, like complexity, changing requirements from the client. This is this happens every time. So many stakeholders, you have to be really careful with that. The regulatory pressure that I seen in every bank, and the time and resources constraints. So being a VA in a fintech is not only requirements and systems, it's connecting with people and technology. And at the end of the day, having time to enjoy your life and go to the gym and relax and start a new day. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have any time for the questions, James?
Yeah, yeah, I think we do. We've 1 minute. If people do want to stay, we can talk further. But that was a great presentation. Thanks so much, Gustavo, for
Thank you.
sharing what your day in life is. Really, really interesting, especially the leasing product life cycle. I particularly like that slide. So thanks again from myself and on behalf of IAB Ireland. I'm sure everyone will agree that it was valuable and very insightful to know what it's like working in fintech. I'm just scrolling through the chat here to find that question.
Okay, let me say that I hope that everyone enjoy, and if they have any further questions, uh, they can contact me on LinkedIn. I don't have a page. I don't have anything else, so I'm open to any contact through LinkedIn.
And the question is about do you work simultaneously across multiple projects, or is it more one client project at a time?
It is simultaneously. I have to divide my time in different clients. simultaneously. So how do I do it? It depends on the releases. So the agenda of the releases, it's what give us the timing. If we are on a delay of a release, we have to be faster with that client. I speed up with that, and then I work with the other one, and so on.
Maxine, does that answer your question, or do you want to ask a follow-up?
No, it answers my question because I was very curious because it sounded like a little bit complicated, where especially after seeing that slide. So thank you.
Thank you, Maxine, for your question.
There's a question from Mary regarding best practices for eliciting requirements.
Okay. What I'm trying to do when eliciting requirements on the best practices, it's that first I try to get the information from the source. First, go to the documents and to the documentation that if they have any at the company, and then try to identify the main stakeholders of the information that I'm looking for. So once that I have all that in line, I get the hands on the work. I don't know if I answered the question.
You got the thumbs up, so I assume so.
Okay.
Marvelson, do you want to come off mute and ask your question? You should be able to unmute yourself. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Marvelson.
Okay, I'm reading the question
Okay,
here.
all right. Thank you, Dean. I want to appreciate you, Gustavo, for your very wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
This presentation was simplistic in a way that literally a teenager can understand it. And for that, I say kudos. I want to ask you a question. I've already written it, but since Mr. President has asked me to unmute myself, let me ask the question. I am just wondering, what will the job description of a business analyst be in a fintech company that is trying to start up and is building a payment system? What would the job description be? I'm asking this question because I have a lot of haziness concerning what the JD will be, because I have a background in the healthcare sector. I've been a BA for 12 years in the healthcare sector, so I really want to broaden my horizon. That's why I'm asking this question. Thank you.
Okay, I will try to respond to this question. It's a interesting question because I believe that I haven't worked in a startup, but I believe that in a startup, probably a role it has to be more how do you say, like you have to grab more part of the cake. Like in a context like in a startup, you need more information of everything. In a big company, you can work only in a small sector or in a small part of the project. That's what I believe. But the description of a BA in the fintech context, I will try to look at someone that has experience in the banking sector, and if doesn't have experience in the banking sector, experience in the adjacent parts like insurance, like credits, like credit firms or similar that companies that have similar workflows, so that people will have the experience in that different areas. But if you are trying to find someone specifically for a startup, you probably need someone with a lot of knowledge in the banking industry to to fulfill that shoes.
All right, Gustavo, thank you for your response. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I hope I answered the question.
It's all right. It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, we do have another question, but I am conscious of your time, Gustavo, and anyone else who's on the line. So if anyone's leaving, thank you so much for joining another session. We will be having another day in the life of a BA in about 2 weeks' time. So keep an eye on LinkedIn because the next session will be about IT consulting, which will be really interesting. So if you're interested in registering, the details are already on our website. You can find a link on our LinkedIn page, but there will be a few LinkedIn posts. So if you're interested in joining that session, you can go ahead and register for that event. But for anyone who is leaving, thank you again. And Gustavo, are you okay to stay on just for one more question?
Yes, all right. No problem.
It's from Maxine. Maxine, do you want to come off mute and ask the question yourself?
Okay. 1 second. I hope I have. Okay. My question is like, because you're involved in the systems and what have you, like, are you involved a lot in like the back end because of you mentioned like the SQL, so I don't know how often you're involved in like the software aspect part of it, because I can understand being involved in like requirements elicitation, but now dealing with the software, I don't know how
Yes.
involved you are.
Yes, I understand the question. At the moment, I'm not required to do it. I'm trying to do it to learn. But my colleagues, they are more in the part of assistant of the client, and they have, if you are in the part of the assistance of the system, you work more with the software, with the back end of the software. So if something doesn't work properly, or if the database has a problem, if the number is not accurate, or if a document doesn't perform like it should, you could have some participation searching for that problem, changing the information that was misinterpreted by the user, and they did something that they shouldn't do, and you have to cancel a contract, you have to kill a contract. That means not delete, but make it null, the information. So you could have participation and a lot of participation in the back end of the software if you work specifically like that. And I believe that could be like more like a product owner role, kind of, because they perform all this assistance at the client, and they have to know exactly everything really precise in a day-by-day, daily, basis. You're welcome.
And thank you so much for this event as well, and for presenting Gustavo, as well as to James for hosting. So thank you.
Thank you, Maxine. I'm glad you enjoyed the events, and thanks everyone for joining. If there's no more questions, we can leave it there. But thanks again for everyone for joining, and stay tuned for the next events.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Thank you,
Thank
James.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.